almost ready over here. I just wanted to give people just a little bit of extra time. All right. I have shared in the chatting area a link to today's presentation, which has a code, access code, which you might need in order to interact with the presentation. Today, I have a few people that it's so good to see here, but I wanted to highlight Mark because we have done a podcast together and we talked about a lot of virtual event platforms. And if you haven't listened to that podcast episode, it's a great place to start if you're still looking for a virtual event platform. And then I have another special guest, but I will introduce her a little later. I just wanted to get started here and welcome everyone that has joined so far. This is kind of like an open invite, so everybody can come and go as they feel. And the presentation link that I mentioned would be great if you interacted with that, as it'll kind of give you also an overview of what this is all about. And it's a great tool to use, and I'll be using it throughout today's session. So you don't want to miss it. Follow the link in the chat. If you want to take some time to also say hi to each other and where you're from, that would be amazing. Maybe what event sector you represent if you're in events, and what you're hoping to get out of today's session. That would be great. And type any questions that you might have, so I can go through them either at the end today, or even get back to you if we don't have enough time. Especially regarding engagement, because that's sort of like the topic of what I want to touch on. I was super ambitious last week, and I wanted to cover a lot of things, and I realized, well, there's not enough time to cover everything. And with a little bit of guidance, I was like, okay, I need to focus on what's actually more important, and that's what I'm going to try to do. So yeah, we're in the introduce yourself. Let me also keep an eye on chat. I'll try to. I promise. I'm good at multitasking, but depends on how many cups of coffee I've actually had. So that's that. All right. So the next thing is this awesome slide, which is going to it's called a word cloud. So if you're already in the presentation and you enter the code, you can actually type in a few things about yourself, or how you're feeling, or where you're from, or what sector of the event industry you represent. And it's going to show it on the presentation, and kind of like a cloud. And I'm gonna just show you what it would look like as a test vote. And it's super fun to use during events, especially if you wanna engage with your audience and just interact. So if you enter your own words, it's going to show up there. And while you guys do that, I just wanted to maybe, talk a little bit about myself. No, I don't like to talk about myself, but maybe just make an introduction and just give you just sort of an idea of like, okay, who are you? Well, I'm Anka Trifan, and I'm a CMP, as well as the founder and CEO of Trifan Events. And I'm also the main technical event producer. And we are a boutique event production agency that is offering technical consultation, strategic event design, production management, and execution for live, virtual, and hybrid events. I'm also the host of a podcast, which it's a super fun project. I started it out of like boredom, but now I feel like I have to keep going because it's so exciting. And I have a lot of featured guests, one of them being Mark that I mentioned. And we talk about events, we talk about strategies, we talk about tips, and sometimes I talk about technical details, especially coming from a production background. All right, let's see what we got over here. I want to see. Ooh, look at this. I love it. Keep them coming. See, we got some word clouds of our own. That's awesome. All right. While you guys do that, I'm probably going to switch over to, I love it, to the next slide and just talk about what, just very lightly cover on what we talked about last week. And what that was technology production and the minimums must-haves for a polished virtual event production, which has the ability to impact what the online viewers hear and see, especially in the context where we no longer have the same amount of control that we used to have with in-person events. Like we used to touch all senses, all 5 senses. Now we're kind of left with like hearing and seeing. I can't talk anymore. And taste, touch, and smell are gone. They're things of the past, at least for right now. We hope that's not going to be the case forever. So if you like to review last week's topic, I'm not going to go much into that, but I'm gonna have the link to the YouTube, which you can watch at your leisure, and it's going to be coming your way in chat. If I can get to my chat window, there you go. Oh yeah, Mark. No, I'm not at 40. I wish I was. Mark was asking how many episodes. I started with a very realistic idea of like how many episodes can I produce in a month without killing myself. So I decided it was gonna be 1. The only exception to that was last July when we had our 1-year anniversary. So I did 1 episode every week, and that was a featured guest every week. And I mean, it was great for July because I wasn't so busy in events, but yeah, it was a lot of work. Okay, next, ooh, look, I have some questions. I have a question for you actually in the next slide. And it has to do with what with a little bit of what we talked last week, but I want to see some of the answers. So let's see what happens if I put it out there and you guys put your best guess. Okay, there's no pressure here. You have 25 seconds. No pressure. Basically just dials in on what we talked about last week. But if you weren't here, but I know some of you have been, and you might actually have some really good guesses. If you weren't, that's totally okay. I wish I had some Halloween candy to throw at you guys virtually so that, ooh, awesome. Well, you guys are amazing. Look at those answers. Awesome. Well, thank you for interacting and engaging with the slide. Right, so let's move on really quick because I want to get to, ooh, nice. I want to get to the topic of today, but I just want to highlight some of the functions of Mentimeter, especially if you're going to use it as an engagement tool, as a way to present in a fun way. This is great, and this is not even a paid plan. It's free, so you're free to create your own things and have some fun with it. Okay, so basically the answer to that question was some of the most important must-haves. One of the most important one is having that solid hardwired internet connection. And but you know, there's a lot to go into this, and I've touched this last week, so I'm just going to pass and go past of it. What I really wanted to touch on before we get into engagement is really knowing your why before you plan the how, because I feel a lot of event planners do tend to get into a lot of trouble because they do not set first the why before they plan the how, because they want to get to the how, right? Because that's the one thing that stresses them. But virtual events are no different than any other events, you know, for that matter. And having that strategic approach like you would for an in-person event is just as important, and it's a great consideration. So having those the answer to your why and having your event be purpose-driven and people-focused will then drive all your decisions and it will guide you in making the right choices, even when it comes to, technology, relevant content, appropriate engagement strategies, and especially the right team to help you and support your event. So with that in mind, I'm going to move into the next. And this is another question where I would love for you guys to interact with. And just to kind of gather some idea on what do you consider to be your biggest pitfall when it comes to virtual events. And feel free to answer at your leisure, and then we'll go into the engagement part of the of today's I would say presentation, but it really is not a presentation. It's just like talk, and I really, I hope you guys have some questions that you are dropping in the chatting area. I would love to get to those as well. Okay, so engagement. What is engagement? Haha, right? I mean, any seasoned event professional knows that engagement has always been a crucial component of any event. And one of the biggest pitfalls of really virtual events currently, just because we do we do happen to live within this season, whatever, how long it might be, of this pandemic world where we are doing a lot of virtual events. And besides the technical knowledge that I hear a lot as being a challenge, is also engagement. And while engagement is the easiest thing to get wrong, it's also one of the truest ways to determine if your event was effective or not. So it's up to us as event organizers to cultivate a sense of connection with this remote audience through the use of different methods, like, for example, a presentation like this, but also techniques that overcome this obstacle, because simply there can be any true engagement without interaction when it comes to virtual events. So unless you're okay with your online event to be some sort of a passive webinar, and I mean, we know that nobody binge watches webinars, we will have to consider a different format from what, we would normally plan and structure for a in-person event. And understanding this roadblock is very important, but it's also the first step, and knowing how to overcome is really the next step. And that's what we want to touch on, the techniques that I've seen that deliver results. And feel free to add your comments on those slides. If you see at the bottom of the slide, you can add comments, you can add questions, and you can give love and thumbs ups. And I'm not sure what the kitty cat is. I forgot. Anyway, engagement when it comes to virtual events starts way before the event goes live. And it starts by getting the event sponsors, speakers, and registered attendees involved on social media weeks in advance of the actual event. And this is where I wanted to bring up the use of a hashtag, of an event hashtag, that hopefully nobody else is using it, and it's also not very general, and it doesn't have any other unrelated content pop up. But I'm not a specialist on social media and on hashtags, and that's why I wanted to invite Hannah and talk a little bit about this today, and give us a few tips on how to engage productively on social media with your audience. And Hannah, she's an incredible marketing coach, empowering female entrepreneurs with tools on how to market, monetize, and grow their business on social media. But she's also an event planner and meeting organizer herself. She's the brains and the muscle, I want to say, behind a community of women from all walks of lives that meet monthly to connect, encourage, and empower each other. And that's where actually I met Hannah, and at one of those live mixers that she organizes. And she's been pretty much my hero ever since, so she can take it away and teach us a few tips.
Hello.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Anka. Thank you for having me. It was such an honor that you asked me to be a part of this. You have also been my hero. Of course, before we met, I think I stalked you probably just as much as you maybe stalked meet. So I was so excited to meet you and love what you do. It's very inspiring. And it's, as you shared, I do mostly live events. And, I feel like a lot of that comes naturally to me. But to think of producing a virtual event or even on the scale that you have done, even before COVID hit, is just mind blowing and I admire that because that I know that takes a lot of a different heart and technology to put that on versus a live one that I do.
Well, I'm honored, and I just I know that we all have our own skills and power, strength. So yours is definitely not mine, and that's why I'm like I can't speak to what Hannah's going to speak. So I'd rather have her talk about a few strategies for social media, and then if she needs maybe help with an event, I'll help her if I can.
Yes.
But she's already produced her own event, so like you're way too humble for this. So let's just dive straight in.
Yeah. So when it comes to engagement on social media, um, I believe, I feel strongly, even if it's a virtual event and you're not doing something in person, I think the same interacting and strategy is important, no matter what you have, and that's key engagement on your social media platform. Now, I think also depending on kind of what your event is, you should have, whether you're the planner or the organizer, you should have your own platform of social media. Or say it's a regular occurring like mine, I have, 2C Women Connect is a regular occurring event. So I have a platform so that I can create engagement. And that's how I've been able to build this and grow this, is because of my engagement. And the key that I think a lot of people don't want to hear with true engagement and bringing people together, whether it's virtually or in person, is stories. Instagram stories. People cringe whenever I say that. But if you can create all the beautiful feed you want with all the great information about your event, which is key too, because people, when they come to your page, they will use your feed, which is the grid on your Instagram. I'm talking about Instagram mostly right now. You will use that as a foundation for your events, your virtual events, or about you, about the business, about the company or organization. So that feed is important to have all the key information about the event and the background. But where you are going to connect and create that true interaction with people will be in your stories. People want that connection now. They feel connected to you, to the organization and the cause, when they can see you as the organizer show up on stories, talking about the event, talking about your organization or your company. People, especially now, especially after COVID, I believe it's been in the last 2 years that people have really looked to stories to connect to that organization, versus like the feed. People just want to be connected. They want to know who you are. They don't want to know what your why, so that that you can, then that will drive them to your event. But really, without stories, I would say you're wasting your time on Instagram. It is a little different on Facebook. Facebook, I would say, to connect with your key followers and your key attendees and all that, would be going live more often. But on Instagram, that is why they created the stories, is because people are just eating you up. If you can show up there, you will have a better engagement in your virtual event, in your in-person events too. And really, without that, you have kind of a wasteless page, I guess is what you could say.
So how would you leverage the use of hashtags in stories or on, on your profile in the main feed, even like on IGTV and now Reels? I mean, I feel like every day they're just
Yeah.
adding another something. And it just took me maybe a few months to get on Reels. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how old am I?
Well, I mean, I coach, that's what I coach for a living. And I still like, and it's not for the fact I'm afraid of it. It's just, I have to take some time to watch like what's happening, how to really use it. I still haven't really jumped on board. I mean, so it's a helpful tool for sure. But when it comes to hashtags, it depends on what your purpose is. I think, like you had mentioned, Anka, creating a hashtag that's specifically for your event is helpful, but really it does not create. I would not rely on that to use as an engagement tool. Hashtags are truly more for discoverability, for searchability. So when people are looking for an event or something in your industry, they may look at certain hashtags. And so I think it's very important to use not only your own event hashtag, but also when you think about your ideal clients or ideal attendees of your events, virtually or in person, you need to think about, how are they finding you? How are they, when they're looking for an event like yours, they will go to the hashtag search section, and they'll think about, what are the subjects you're covering? Is it a fundraiser for cancer, or diabetes or something like that, right? And so really, when it comes to hashtags, they are more used for discoverability when people are trying to find an organization like yours. Now, another thing too, with engagement, when you have created a hashtag for your events, you can use that to let people know, hey, everything we post about this event will be under this hashtag. So you can use it as a tool, kind of as a profile and kind of a file of pictures and a file of information where people could always find that information as a reference. And of course, then people can use it to post, their pictures or interaction with that as well. But I would say the engagement truly more will come when when you start showing up on stories and actually also going live and doing videos as well. People want to click that play button as often as they can.
Absolutely. And I was going to add to this, and thank you, Hannah, for all those great tips. And I think this is great, especially for audience to audience engagement, as well as event planner to audience. And we personally actually know a few event planners that are in charge of large events, and only until recently they actually came out on stories behind the event and show their face. Their engagement, I don't know, tripled. I don't know exactly the metrics for that, but they were talking about how people were able to connect with them at a different level than before, because until then it was just the face of the event was just the logo, or maybe whatever the organization was. But until they put a face, like a human face, behind the event, people were just kind of like, okay, here's another event, as opposed to here's another human being that actually has likes and dislikes and opinions and different ways of seeing things than before. And
Yeah.
that was very interesting to me to like just think of it from that point of view as well.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it too, especially now, there are multiple people or organizations creating events like yours, like mine, like any of the attendees here, right? And so how are you going to stick out above the rest? How are you going to not in a salesy way, but convince them that they should attend your virtual event versus someone else's, right? And really the key is, because people are not doing it as much as they should, is like you said, showing up on stories and connecting with them, the purpose of why you're doing this and why the event is happening. And, you as an example, I remember, in the beginning, probably when I started stalking you, I didn't see you in stories. I didn't see pictures of you really very much. And so I didn't really know who you were. And it wasn't really until you started showing up in stories that I felt more connected to you. and you would share behind the scenes or things with your family, and just this balance of life. And it felt like it was like a Me Too thing, right? It's like, I feel commonality with you now, and that's what people want. They want to find commonality of why they should attend your event or support you over someone else who has maybe created a very similar event, especially virtual, because then anybody from all over the world can attend, which is a great thing for you guys as virtual event planners. But two, then you have a larger pool to choose from when doing whatever kind of virtual event. So it is key now to help people connect to, like, I know her, even though they've never met you in person. I know her. She's my friend. I feel connected to her. I'm going to attend her event, or I'm going to support her, and those kind of things. And that's key.
And I just wanted to thank you, Hannah, for this, all the tips that you've given us. And
Sure.
I put in the chat for anyone that wants to find Hannah or has questions for Hannah. It's her Instagram hashtag and Instagram handle. And I think you do have a hashtag too, don't you?
Yeah, well, I do have for my events, and I do. It is hashtag Hannah McGee marketing.
There you go. If you don't have a hashtag, you should have a hashtag. Just saying. Anyway, so thank you again, and
Yes.
yeah, feel free if you have questions for Hannah to drop them in the chat area, and she'll get back to you here.
I'll turn off, but I'll hang out, and so if anybody has questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And the one thing that I was going to go into is also touch on the fact that once you engage this way, on social media, and you do have an event hashtag, it has also this double purpose of generating content, and you're basically turning your audience into co-creators through the use, of this generated content. And it's something that creates an intentionality and special moments for your audience to be part of. And any of the USG, or basically user generated content, is, it could be comments, it could be pictures, it could be videos, it could be testimonials, and it could be tweets. I wanted to, bring that up because this is a tool that you could also use part of your broadcasting of your event, part of your live stream. Like, for example, show a curated user-generated content feed before the live stream, part of your pre-event role, highlighting the content that was generated by your attendees. And you can do this with services such as Tint Up, or in a more economical way, by basically manually pulling all the hashtags that have been generated as content and creating your slideshows with comments, photos, tweets that you have received after that moment, and just show it as a rolling slideshow for the event pre-roll. I've seen people do that, and yes, it's not live, but it has been generated live. If you want it to be live, then you might want to go, with a service like TintUp, and depends on the pricing structure of what you're comfortable with. Another great engagement technique is something that I feel like it's a little bit over talked about, but not enough. It's this continual use, I mean, every 5 minutes of chat by appointed chat leaders and chat moderators, Q&A, and polling throughout the event. It's sort of like we did, with Mentimeter with the presentation, and how you want to keep your audience engaged. And with that in mind, I'm going to go back and share my screen. There you go. So what this is, for everyone that chimed in a little later, is the presentation link that I was using for today's material, basically. Okay, so where was I? Yes, make sure your whatever platform you're using, or even the chatting part of the live stream platform, has features like chatting and having those appointed chat cheerleaders, I like to call them. And this is a little different than your moderators. Moderators, they kind of watch for like what's happening over there and is everybody, behaving nicely. Your chat cheerleaders are the ones that will engage with your audience and cheerlead them on. Basically, that's the idea. But Q&A and polling used throughout the event is also a great way to engage your audience, and try to do it every 5 minutes, which means you do have to have a person dedicated to that job, part of your virtual event. Another great ways, in which you can use this engagement is using third parties, like for example, the integration that I use from Mentimeter or Slido. And I've seen also a wide variety of presentation styles that were incorporated. And I attended a fabulous one-day long virtual conference, but it had a variety of speakers that were speaking on diverse and different topics within the same main category. And each speaker had exactly 5 minutes to talk, and with a few minutes left for Q&A. And it was super lively and super to the point and super engaging. And I just love that. Basically, the takeaway is your virtual event doesn't have to be a stripped down version of a in-person event. And while it can't truly match that in-person event in so many ways, engagement should still be a top priority. And going virtual just means that you have to think, more creatively about how to keep your attendees focused and inspired. And my next slide basically goes on a few easy ways to increase engagement. And this is where I would love for you guys to jump in, maybe in the chat, or if you have something that you want to add, let me know, and I would love to spotlight you, and just add your own ideas, because I'm sure there's plenty of ideas there to be shared and for everyone to learn. What I was going to touch really quick with this slide is a few other simple ideas is, for example, entertainment. And yes, do feel free to chime in with your favorites. And I've seen this used in different ways during virtual events, either as pre-recorded content or as live content, depending, on the setup or your, I guess, comfort level as well. I've seen, mariachi bands, and I've seen graffiti artists and DJs, and even like a magician. I mean, why not use a magician to kick off your meeting if you did that during an in-person event? Why is a virtual event not the proper place to have it, right? I've also seen, things like bingo and all type of other engagement activities and trivia and anything that you can use to engage your audience. To me is a oh yeah, somebody was saying, what was adding something in the comment. You can comment on those slides, by the way. That's a super, ooh, pickles is fun. I haven't heard of that, Tammy. So I'll have to look it up. Do type in your comments on those slides because they do pop up as we go through them. Okay, the next thing was like, video. You can post live video, like B-roll, behind the scenes. For me, behind the scenes video is like revealing what's behind the curtain. And sometimes when you have especially speakers and presenters that are those greater than life figures, showing them in their natural habitat is extremely intriguing to people. I mean, I know I'm super curious. I'm like, ooh, I want to know what's happening behind the scenes. Another way, you can use engagement is through the use of quizzes. I'm not sure if everybody's for that. It's more like a yay or nay, not really my thing. But it does have the dual advantage of not just being interactive and highly shareable as in engaging content, but it's very useful to generate excitement before your event even takes place. There's actually quite some nifty tools to use. Like there's one called Apposter, and I can put the name because I'm sure I'm totally like mispronouncing it. I can put it in the chatting area. It helps you create quizzes that look great, and they have plenty of templates that you can use, so it's not so overwhelming to even start with using them. Next thing, could be, creating image banners with short quotes that your audience can share, and that's shareable content. And I use Canva a lot. That's like a free, service that you could have it as a pro service as well. But to create shareable content and quotes from your speakers or from your event or anything that is relevant that could be shared on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, any other place. And another thing is, you know, posting highlights from previous events. This is where you kind of create that FOMO, it's like fear of missing out. If the event, the previous event was so awesome, I mean, I surely don't want to miss this one, and you're creating those moments where you not just engage people that participate in the previous events, but you want to invite others to participate as well. But especially for virtual fundraisers, there's this thing like the concept of watch to win prizes that has been an excellent way to engage the registered audience during a virtual event fundraiser. And if you attach a nice prize to it and you market it in advance, you'll hopefully create that incentive for people not just to join your event, but also to tell their friends and interact some more, on social media. Other ways is virtual event hangouts. Just because your event ended, it doesn't have to end. You can have like a post-event hangout on Zoom, Google, or any other platform that you pick for your event. I love virtual coffee breaks. I mean, now I love them to be in person, but having a way to connect with other people as a virtual coffee break during your event is an amazing way to just socialize. Okay, one other idea I had is a matchmaking service, and there's some platforms like, for example, Wova, Brella, Swapcart, Eventia, basically the type of platforms that would provide this automated tool to match like-minded professionals based on the information they share, as in, okay, what is the type of like-minded individuals that I'm looking for this event? And I mean, if nothing is provided, basically at the minimum, at least have a few bullet points, some sort of a bio, and that really helps with the automated tool to generate this matchmaking of, and I've used it before, and it's great actually. I did meet some cool people that way and made some connections. Swapcart, yeah, Remo is another one, and with a lot of networking features, and platforms as well have that. It's worth just checking a few out to see where they stand. And I know I've loved Brellas. I haven't used Brella as a platform before until I attended an event recently, and I was like, ooh, I actually kind of like this. I think that's it for actually today. I just wanted to put this slide up with ask me anything basically, and you can add that into the comments, and or there's a comment, there's a Q&A section that you can enter questions. And but before, I guess, before we conclude today's session, I want to use one more tool, which is, we were talking about polls, and I created a poll that I'm going to launch it in chat. And I would love if you guys interacted with that and just, leave your feedback over there. I also use polls with Slido, and I created one for today, but I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'm just going to not use it today. But you can enable Slido the same way I have via screen sharing, and then share it with your audience. It has a code, and it has some fun features that can be used for your event. Well, let's see if there are any questions I can address in the chat. I want to make sure that I'm going back and I didn't miss anything. If you do have questions that come up to you maybe a little later, feel free to reach out to me via the event page for this event. I will still keep it up there in the discussion part of the event. You can actually add questions, and I'll do my best to give you my best answer. I don't have all the answers, but at least I have one that I could come up with based on experience so far. And yeah, that's all I had. I think somebody asked a question, if does Menti give you the ability to put this on the screen? I'm not sure who asked that. I'm trying to figure out on the screen as in share it via Zoom like I did, or on the screen. Okay, yes, that's exactly what I was doing. Basically, I created a presentation in Mentimeter, and then I present within the browser, of the presentation, and then share it from Zoom, and share that specific page, so that now you have this presentation that is quite engaging, and it gives you the ability to add feedback and love it or hate it, or add kitty cats. I still don't know what that is. I'll have to figure out. If you want to join me next week, guess what? We will touch on a different topic. I've got a few things that I'm planning for the weeks to come. I want to do this until probably Thanksgiving. And there's also a lot of resources that you can find on my blog post site, and plus the podcast that I mentioned, where we talk about virtual event platforms and virtual event tips. And I'm going to start talking about hybrid events, because before we know it, this is what we're doing. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm planning a in-person event in November, guys. I mean, that's crazy, but it's true. And it's not even a hybrid, it's in person. So I'm super excited, because honestly, I have missed like really bad getting together with people and just not be behind a screen, although there's benefits for that as well. So anyway, thank you again so much, and I'm always happy to connect via messaging or emails. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I appreciate your time today, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.